on that one. The hostages got to be settled first, and then everything else can be worked out later. Kind of like, all right, if we can work on the hostages, then we can work on IDF being removed, then we can work on the board of peace, and we can just keep it going for there. But of course, those hostages must be returned, and I'm championing that. So shout out Mark Rubio, if he's trying to work towards that little game plan. All right, let's go ahead and get into the next one. All right, we got Jake Tapper interviewing one of Trump's economic advisors, the one that's always smiling.
As you saw from our exclusive text interview, President Trump this weekend told me that his party is, quote, winning the shutdown and cutting costs big time. As 5 days in, his administration is looking to make things as painful as possible for Democrats and maybe even their voters. What's next? Joining us now is the president's top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. So the White House said on Friday that discussions are still underway between President Trump and OMB Director Russell Vought on identifying cuts to agencies and layoffs, permanent layoffs of federal workers. The White House said these cuts could come as soon as Friday. Nothing's been announced yet. Are these layoffs still coming? How many people could lose their jobs? What agencies are we talking about?
Right. Well, what we can say is that everybody in the White House wants that not to happen. What we want is we want the Democrats to come forward and to make a deal that's a clean, continuing resolution that gives us 7 more weeks to talk about these things. But the bottom line is that with Republicans in control.
And shout out to Arctic Electric. He says, or Electric. Yeah, electric. We're going with electric. Yes, he said there are no hostages. They are prisoners of war. And he is speaking to the, I'm pretty sure I know what you're speaking to. He's speaking to the fact that they did kidnap some IDF soldiers. And here's the crazy part about Israel that I believe a lot of people understand by now that most people in Israel have served in the IDF. Actually, it's part of law. It's part of like Israel's law for all citizens to at least serve in the IDF for a little bit of time. So a lot of the people who were, honestly, unalive during October 7th, and I would say, we can't say all of them are prisoner of war. They actually do have some hostages, but they also did kidnap IDF soldiers as well. So there are some prisoners of war.
The Republicans have a lot more power over the outcome than the Democrats. And the Democrats need to show some leadership, as Senator Fetterman has, and step up and give us the sort of moderating outcome that the Federalist Papers thought senators would do. You remember in Federalist 63, both Madison and Hamilton said the senators are actually the voice of reason. They're the guys who get things to be moderated and to calm down. And as I look at this Democratic Party, we've already had this Senate controlled by Republicans defeat more of President Trump's nominees than were for the whole 4 years for Biden not accepted by this. So they're basically marching in lockstep with Chuck Schumer. And I think that what the president's hoping for is that senators that have read the Federalist Papers and understand their view in the Federalist Papers that they need to stand up and be the moderating influence. It's time for them to do that and to moderate this party that's run really far to the left of where it used to be.
It doesn't sound as though they're following your advice there. So are these layoffs definitely happening? Because Russ Vought said on Wednesday it would happen within 1 to 2 days and still nothing.
Well, again, I think that if the president decides that the negotiations are absolutely going nowhere, then there will start to be layoffs. But I think that everybody's still hopeful that when we get a fresh start at the beginning of the week, that we.
And here's the thing, though, like you can't really feel bad for the Dems or really blame Trump, because the Dems knew that they would give Trump this power. They knew that Trump would be able to F with them and cut their favorite NGOs, lay off some of their favorite employees, truly kind of F with them. And I can't be mad that the Dems put themselves in this position with a shutdown, especially over the red herring argument of healthcare premiums. So I can't feel bad if Trump starts cutting, infrastructure funding. I can't feel bad if he starts cutting, I would say funding to some blue states. You can't be mad at him because guess who did it to him? Guess who did this to themselves? The Dems. So if the Dems are the ones taking most of the heat for it, hey, it is what it is, guys. And you know what? I don't even agree with Trump doing that. But I'm going to say this. You guys say that Trump is this evil dictator and all this wild stuff and this authoritarian who wants to get back. Well, why would you put yourselves in the way of get back? I mean, let's be honest here. Let's make it make sense. You can't be that bad if you guys will leave yourselves this vulnerable to his control.
And get the Democrats to see that it's just common sense to avoid layoffs like that, to avoid the $15 billion a week that the Council of Economic Advisors says will harm GDP if we have a shutdown, and also just all the payments for rent payments and so on that people won't be able to make because they're not getting paid. And so I think that we think the Democrats, there's a chance that they'll be reasonable once they get back into town on Monday. And if they are, then I think there's no reason for those layoffs.
President Trump said on Truth Social that he had a meeting with Russ Vought to, quote, determine which of the many Democrat agencies he recommends to be cut. What exactly is the president refer to when he refers to Democrat agencies? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I guess that's shorthand
NGOs.
for the agencies that generally are the favorites of the Democrats. And, I think we've all got our favorite agencies. Like for me, it's the Council of Economic Advisors. I think that President Trump and Russ Vought are lining things up and getting ready to act if they have to, but hoping that they don't.
Republican senators have been expressing concerns about how the Trump administration seems to be targeting funding for projects in blue states. Vought paused funding for major infrastructure projects in New York City and Chicago, canceled money for climate change projects, mostly in states with Democratic governors. Republican Senator Susan Collins said this is not a...
And guess who left themselves open to be effed with like that? The Democrats. So, I mean, it's the perfect example of...
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
Appropriate. Republican Senator Tom Tillis warned it could 100% backfire against Republicans. You must have concerns about the precedent being set here. I mean, government shutdowns are not uncommon, and someday a Democrat's going to be working in a building behind you.
Well, that is exactly what's happened in the past. And but think about the contrast in the Federalist Papers discussion that we just had. Susan Collins came out and she said, I don't like this action that the president's taking. That's the kind of independent voice in the Senate that the Senate is supposed to give. And yet the Senate Democrats are marching in unison towards like destruction, like lemmings off a hill. Off a cliff. And so I think that in the end, it's natural to put more pressure on the states where the senators are being intransigent. So the senators themselves see the costs that they're imposing on the American people. I think that's completely logical.
You keep talking about the Federalist Papers. I mean, what do you think Alexander Hamilton will make of the president just stopping the funding of projects that have been authorized, appropriated, gone through Congress, House, Senate, Conference Committee, president signed off on it? He just and the unilateral executive just cancels those projects. I don't know that Hamilton would approve of that, or John Jay or Madison.
Well, Hamilton would approve of us not spending money that's not appropriated, and that's what's happened right now because the government shut down. I also suspect that if he were alive today, that he'd be disappointed in the Yankees game. But
so let me ask you: this is obviously urgent, and you're saying President Trump finds it urgent and thinks it's important. Is he talking to Democrats? In the past, he has talked about when he wasn't president, how this is the responsibility of the president to roll up his sleeves, get to work. It's an example of failed presidential leadership if there's a shut.
I mean, look, the problem is that on the CR bill, all the Republicans are on board. So it actually proves that, well, one, we don't have full control of the Senate, nor do we have full control of the House, but we do have majority. So here's the problem. The argument of that, oh, well, Trump could end this. No, not really. He can't, because you got to remember, who's the demanding party? Remember, repeat it with me. Say it with me. When I say who's the demanding party, go ahead and say it with me. The Democrats. And of course they are, because they're the ones who want the $1.5 trillion in Medicaid spending. They're the ones who want to, refund NPR and PBS. I mean, they're the ones who want to start giving illegals Medicaid, higher Medicaid payments. So since they're the demanding party, they're the ones who are responsible for the shutdown. Remember, they're the ones not voting on the CR bill. All the Republicans are all aboard. So the people who are voting no are the ones to blame, because they're the reasons that it's not going through. The Republicans saying, no, we want the government to continue. The Dems are saying no. And then they're trying to, like I said, use a bad argument to make it make sense. When really, like I said, they just want $1.5 trillion in Medicaid spending. It has nothing to do with healthcare subsidies.
Down. This is the guy you heard J.B. Pritzker say. This is the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal. He prides himself in his deal making. Is he involved? Is he talking to Schumer? Is he talking to Jeffries?
For what?
I mean,
I would actually ask them, like, bro, how are they trying to, negotiate? Like, has they came down and said, all right, look, we don't want 1.5 trillion, but can you at least add another 1 billion to Medicaid or something? Like, negotiate. Don't just sit there and tell Trump what you want. If you don't do it, we're gonna shut the government down. Because that's literally what they did. They went to Trump, said, if you don't do this, you don't do that, we're shutting the government down. That's not negotiating. That's holding the government hostage.
The president is doing the work of the American people every day with an amount of energy that is really awe-inspiring. He's also working with James Braid, who's the head of Leg Affairs for us. And we in the White House ourselves are taking calls regularly with senators on both sides of the aisle. And so I think that yes, conversations are continuing, and we're hopeful that this will have a positive resolution really soon.
It doesn't sound like he's talking to Democratic leaders. But let me ask you a question, because this is what the Democrats say is the main reason they're using their leverage in this way. At the end of this year.
Oh, so thank you for admitting it, Jake Tapper. This is the leverage that the Dems can use. We're freezing up the government. We're shutting it down because we want more Medicaid spending, in my belief, in my analysis, it does seem like that's why they're doing it. The way I'm reading it, it seems like they're doing this over increased Medicaid spending. And thank you for admitting, Jake Tapper, that they just have no power at all. The Republicans control the House. They control the Senate. That's not a good argument. And let's be real, that's their leverage, is that they're able to hold up the CR bill. If they wasn't, then why even negotiate with them? Like I said, like the whole argument falls flat on their face when, Akeem and Schumer got to go to Trump and negotiate it. If we didn't need the Dems, why even go meet with Trump when we can just pass it without y'all? Obviously, we can't. So obviously, y'all are the demanding party, and y'all need to, figure something out, because we can't figure nothing out for you. The Republicans wanted to go through as it is. Y'all are the ones who would add stuff to it and are grandstanding, letting the government shut down over it.
The Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare subsidies, are set to expire. It is just a fact that if nothing happens to extend them or whatever, that the healthcare costs for millions of Americans will skyrocket. Analysts from the Kaiser Family Foundation found that 80% of all Obamacare subsidies go to people in states that President Trump won.
And when do they expire? December 31st. Because if you guys would have passed the CR bill, you'd have had another opportunity to go ahead and pass those subsidies. But you're not telling the people that. You're going about Obamacare subsidies. They were going to increase your healthcare premium. And you know what? They might have. But guess what now? That wasn't a problem until December 31st, basically the end of the year. And you're making it seem like it's a 2-week problem when it's really a 2-month problem, really over 2 months.
In 2024, Republican Congressman Don Bacon told me that there's room to compromise here because tons of Republicans are going to not be able to afford their coverage when these subsidies expire. Why not just lean into this, come up with some sort of compromise, and then end the shutdown?
Well, now is not the time to have that debate. Now is the time to keep the government open and not hold all these government workers, especially in Virginia and Maryland, hostage. And so that debate is a debate that can happen. I remind that these Obamacare subsidies were passed by Democrats and set to expire this year because they were viewed as an essential emergency action during COVID. And whether they should expire or not, in fact, like the duty of keeping them going permanently was theirs back then when they passed the action, and they didn't because they thought it would be too expensive. And so I think that get a clean resolution and then discuss this matter in the normal course of action. That's the way the Congress should work.
Before you go, I'm really curious what you think about this Treasury Department development of a $1 commemorative coin for the U.S.'s 250th birthday. U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach shared.
Yeah, no, Dems are going to lose their freaking mind. Don't do it. And look, I'm all for Trump and all that good stuff, but don't do it, guys. The Dems are going to lose their mind. They're going to start doing all the time. They're going to buy a whole bunch of coins and throw it into the river just to spite Trump. Like, I do see a Dem spending $10,000 to buy 10,000 of these coins to throw it all into the river. Why? Because they're petty like that. Because they're petty. And we'll just be sitting there looking at them like,
that shit is hard. Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Images of the coin, and it bears the image of the current president, President Trump. Mm-hmm. This despite the fact that an 1866 law enshrined in the U.S. Code says a living person cannot be featured in U.S. currency. This is obviously dates back to concerns about wanting to avoid the appearance of a monarchy. Is President Trump planning on changing that law?
Right. The fact is that we've got great plans for the 250th anniversary. And in fact, you should watch the festivities today where President Trump is celebrating the Navy. And in terms of reading through what is and isn't available under that law, there have been times in the past where commemorative coins have been printed with the face.
So you're pretty much saying it could be a commemorative coin, which they sell all the time, and Trump got hell of them, honestly. There's a lot of commemorative Trump coins out there, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, it could just be a commemorative coin and not something that you can actually use, or something that's, you know, with treasury.
Faces of living people. And so I think that they're on solid ground if they decide to do that.
Kevin Hassett, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, and let's go ahead and get on to the next one here. Pritzker says, what do you say, actually? Whoops. Here it is. Pritzker says Trump, my bad. Pritzker. Trump says Chicago is a war zone. None of that is true. They're just making this up. Really? We're just making it up. I mean, that is absolutely wild. I mean, shoot, I got videos for days to show y'all about all the violence that go down in Chicago. But I'm not going to be that petty tonight.
Last night, the president announced he is authorizing 300 members of the Illinois National Guard to, quote, protect federal officers and assets in Chicago over the objections of the state's Democratic governor, J.B. Pritzker. Just moments ago, the Homeland Security Secretary responded to Chicago's mayor, who called ICE's actions, quote, dangerous and reckless.
People on the streets are clapping as we do our work. They're clapping as these officers are arresting these bad criminals. This is a war zone. His city is a war zone, and he's lying so that criminals can go in there and destroy people's lives. Where we have gone, we've made it much more free. People are much safer.
Joining us now to discuss Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Governor Pritzker, what's your response to Secretary Noem? And as a practical matter, since you oppose this troop,
shut out Castro. He's like, I'll have y'all get some in that. Okay, I'll have to get some in that case. Yay, scarcity. I mean, ain't that the truth? Yay, scarcity. Oh, and Dems, like, let's be real, man. Like, come on, guys. Like, when it comes to this whole immigration thing, when it comes to the National Guard,
stop whining. Your kids are soft.
Stop being soft.
Deployment. Is there anything you can do?
Well, good morning, Jake. And let me just say that the secretary doesn't know what she's talking about. She frankly says that people are clapping. They're not. They're booing her on the street, and they're booing ICE and CBP. They're marching, the CBP marching on a beautiful Sunday in Michigan Avenue in downtown Chicago. They're raiding neighborhoods.
Hey, no, shout out to Tove. She said, no, do the coin while Trump endorses oxygen. Yeah, I know. So they can start holding their breath. Let's do the coin so the Dems will spend all of their money just to throw it into the river to see somewhere. Or I don't know. They might spend the money to go to Hawaii and throw it in the volcano. They might really have that much hatred in their heart. Let's test it.
Where instead of going after the bad guys, they're just picking up people who are brown and black and then checking their credentials. Are you a U.S. citizen? I don't know about you, but I don't carry around papers that say I'm a U.S. citizen. So you can imagine people are getting detained. They're getting
you don't really have to. Let's be real. They're HSI, Homeland Security Investigation. They're doing that investigation into you to see if you need to be picked up or not. And let's be real, if you're around that area, they're going to ask you what your social security number is, or for an ID. Your ID is going to let you know if you're illegal or not. Actually, if you have an ID, that's usually a sign that you're legal, that you're a legal citizen, or you're a U.S. born citizen. So if you don't know your social security as an adult by now, and you don't have an ID as an adult by now, I'm sorry, but I'm going to assume you're here illegally, and I don't care what skin color you are.
U.S. citizens. And they did this, of course, when they raided a building in the middle of the night in South Shore. 130 people that were emptied out of this building. They were going after a few gang members, and instead they broke windows, they broke down doors, they ransacked the place, and there were people that were held, I mean, elderly people and children zip-tied. Elderly people held for 3 hours at a time. They are the ones that are making it a war zone. They need to get out of Chicago. If they're not going to focus on the worst of the worst, which is what the president said they were going to do, they need to get the heck out.
So let's talk about that. The federal agents this week carrying out this massive nighttime raid on this apartment complex in Chicago. Reportedly, they used drones, helicopters, military-style vehicles. A Border Patrol officer told the New York Times that snipers rappelled down to the roof of the building during the raid from a helicopter. What more can you tell us about this raid?
Well, let me also mention that the Border Patrol shouldn't be there either. They're claiming that the shores of Lake Michigan are the border of the United States, and therefore they should be in Chicago. They belong on the borders, truly on the borders, and where there may be some mayhem that they need to deal with, but it's not in the city of Chicago. What happened at that building is shameful. Our Department of Children and Family Services are investigating what happened to those children who were zip-tied and held, some of them nearly naked, in the middle of the night. And again, elderly people being thrown into a U-Haul for 3 hours.
I mean, is it because they're illegals? Is it because they're not supposed to be there? Is it because they walk into an apartment complex where there's a whole lot of illegals in here and they're wondering, well, I'm not sure if you got a warrant or if you're a co-conspirator or if you're hiding and embedding one of these illegals. So everybody in here is getting locked up or getting detained until we figure it all out. I mean, yeah, that's quite possible. And they are within it is within the law to do so. I mean, when you make a whole area a crime scene, it is what it is. But all right, guys, I'd also do want to get to this video about this one Chicago guy who decided to take you through one of these immigrant ran apartments and how they just do it oh so dirty. Because there's a major uproar among lefties and some members of the black community claiming that the recent ICE raids on South Shore building in Chicago was intended to target black residents. Some are even going as far as to allege that the black residents were kidnapped by federal agents. So don't worry, man. Shout out to my man Wayne Head, who claims to be a former maintenance worker at the building, recorded several videos prior to the ICE raid in early September. In footage, he explains how illegal immigrants from Venezuela has taken over the property and changed the locks on the apartment doors and vandalized the building. The video shows the structure is completely in disarray. So let's go right to this video, man. Shout out to my man Wayne, man. Shout out to the brother. Shout out to the brother.
So they're doing around Chicago, find the most vulnerable buildings and move in. I say move in. So they're doing around Chicago, find the most vulnerable buildings and move in. I say move in, they take over. I'm gonna take on this road right quick. First and second floor today.
Oh, and shout out to my man Jet. He says, "Where's all the evidence? Where's all the video evidence, Governor Pillsbury?" Governor Pillsbury.
Yeah, gonna get it out the way. Check it out. What up? Hola. Hola. Good. Bien. Check it out. Boarded up.
Boarded up. It's crazy.
Locks. Venezuela.
New locks. So they'll break in and then put new locks on the door after they broke in.
Venezuela. I'm gonna tell you how I know. So when we was managing this building 2 years ago, we never used these locks. I'm gonna show you the type of locks that's being used and how you know that it's being who live in them. Trust me, it's been like this for like 3 months.
Migrant takeover.
It's all flooded. All flooded. Look.
Oof.
Step over right quick. Put my face mask on. Look at this. It's wide open. Risk kids, women, anybody get snatched up. Look, just wide open. Boards. Now this been, I'm hoping to run into some of the Venezuelans. The way she ain't bullshit. Regular log. Regular. Look at this shit.
Oh, damn. They stripped the lighting. It's crazy.
boiler room. But you actually got somebody living in the boiler room.
Oh, living in the.
See the mailboxes. There's the elevators. See they spray painted cameras.
Damn, spray painted the cameras.
Spray painted more cameras. This the front.
Hey,
this
nah.
The front entrance.
And they propped it open.
Look at this jungle. It's like New Jack City.
Oh hell nah.
Say all windows wide open. Windows broke, wide open. Cords running through up the walls.
Hey, nah, that is migrant takeover right there. They break in there, they take the locks off, they put their own locks on. They out here trying to steal electricity from other tenants and all that. So they got wires running through all the area. Like, it's not being taken care of, obviously, because I mean, how could it be taken care of when they got people living there for free who just breaking into these rooms?
Locks broke in.
Damn.
So I got my keys dangling. You need to let people know I'm coming. I don't want to surprise nobody. Safety, people, safety. So this is the back entrance going to the lunch room. I'll show you this. Doors.
Damn.
Try to slow down with the camera so y'all can get a better look.
Damn, they done F that shit up. Oh yeah, if I was the landlord, I'd have been through. I'd have been like, yeah, there ain't nothing else I could do.
Those out in a minute, they're gonna be jumping. A lot of Venezuela got F.
I'd have been suing the city.
Nose. It's the back. This how it is. So a lot of people should know exactly why I'm making. This is just the first floor, people. Cameras sprayed. Like this completely out. Mo crib, I ain't gonna be walking inside the joints, but they're gonna show you right there. Broken. The mainly occupied floor.
And the reason why he's not walking in some of these broken in doors because he knows people is living in there.
Floors is probably the 5th floor. And all these broke into. The 1st floor, 2nd floor, they completely took over.
Dang.
No, they don't throw the
I mean, you got Americans paying rent, and then you got Venezuelans who just recklessly moved in there, what, for free? For free.
Up to the ground, they just move it to the hallway and move right in. It's crazy. Look, electric cords running through into the units.
Damn.
Check this out. It's crazy.
Hey, F that room up.
Just wide open.
Yeah, that room's done for.
From anywhere. Look at this. It's crazy. They said how I know it's the Venezuela. I told you I used to work with the building. I was here when we moved everybody in when dumbass Democrats opened up the borders and allowed everybody to come over. So I was part of the building management company. And that's just the 1st floor. Let's go to the 2nd floor.
Oh man, there's more?
I'm gonna give y'all the 1st and 2nd floor today.
Hold on. There's more? Yeah.
Again, look. Break in.
Broken in.
Electric room. Break in.
Hey, nah.
Put it up.
They're trying to catch up.
They're
literally trying to catch up to these guys, but they can't. They're like, all right, the landlord can only protect only so many rooms, and the immigrants just keep coming in and breaking doors and putting in their own locks.
The boards, they leave the furniture in the board right outside the door the apartment that they broke in. But this is what they not gonna show you. But I'm gonna show you. It's all this been like this for months.
Yeah, they better. I mean, bro, I would hope the owner is getting paid by the city, the duplicitous bastard, the evil bastard. But I mean, hey, at least you're getting paid to let this thing go right into the shitter.
Look at this. Wide open. I'm not about to walk up in there, but your rundown is what it is. Hazard. Every floor is a hazard. But this is what they're not gonna show you. I'm gonna show it to you. Look at that. It's not a house though, but somebody living in there. Kind of got a light view. Look at this. Look at this. No locks at all.
Damn.
They running cords.
Damn, no locks, and they stealing electricity.
Next unit.
Ah, Project Living.
Again. You know, they got into a little altercation a little month back. And they started kicking each other doors in.
Damn.
All kind of shit. So what I'm seeing right now, the whole entire first floor.
Jesus.
The whole entire second floor.
All right. Well, yeah. So when Pritzker says there's no problems going on, Venezuelans aren't taking over apartment complexes, you know, you can always show your friend this video right here. I mean, shout out to my man Wayne.
Man. And detained U.S. citizens. What kind of a country are we living in? And this raid at this building is emblematic of what ICE and CBP and the President of the United States, Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino, are trying to do. They want mayhem on the ground. They want to create the war zone so that they can send in even more troops. Now they're claiming they need 300 of Illinois' National Guard. Well, we didn't need them before they showed up. And what they ought to do is allow us to work with FBI, ATF, DEA, who are civilian law enforcement and understand how to target and take out the bad guys.
DHS says that CBP officers shot and wounded a woman in Chicago yesterday after, they say, she allegedly rammed a law enforcement vehicle and agents were boxed in by multiple cars. The spokesperson for DHS, Tricia McLaughlin, accused Chicago police of leaving the scene and refusing to assist agents in securing the area. What do you know about this incident? Were federal agents boxed in and assaulted?
Well, we don't have a lot of facts.
What
happens in these sorts of incidents is typically ICE puts out a press release before anybody else can speak with the press, and then it ges reported on social media and elsewhere. Remember, these are.
And Shutdown Vlastin coming in. He says, could it be a prepared blood and wound pack? Charlie Kirk. Oh, here we go again. Hey, shout out to the Charlie conspiracy.
The same folks who killed.
We'll look into that later.
Person, unarmed person, just a couple of weeks ago in Franklin Park. At first, they said that the officer had been threatened with his life. The reality of it and the truth of it has now come out, and that wasn't the case. They killed somebody. So here it's really hard to know exactly what the facts are, and they won't let us access the facts. They are just putting out their propaganda, and then we've got to later determine what actually happened.
Trump is also trying to deploy the National Guard to Portland, Oregon, after a federal judge there, appointed by Trump, I should note, temporarily blocked that effort. Top White House advisor Stephen Miller blasted that ruling as, quote, legal insurrection and said, quote, the deployment of troops is an absolute necessity to defend our personnel, our laws, our government, public order, and the republic itself. What did you think when you saw that statement from Stephen Miller?
Well, let's back up and remember this judge is a Trump-appointed judge. This judge actually said what I think should be said about all of what Donald Trump is doing, which is it's untethered from the facts. That's what the judge said, that what the government is doing, what Trump is doing is untethered from the facts. That's the case. He was claiming that it's mayhem on the streets of Portland. He's saying that, Chicago.
No, he was saying it was mayhem with those ICE, the ICE protests. And when you got, like I said, people were trying to throw stuff at ICE, trying to make, gun signs at ICE. They even went out the way to make a fake guillotine. I mean, come on now. What do you expect is going to happen? So, no, he wasn't really talking about the streets of Portland too much. He was talking about the ICE protests going on in Portland that were getting out of hand. And actually, that I still do believe is out of hand. So, yeah, he's talking about that. And Pritzker, I mean, here you go. Now I wanted to talk about how crazy Chicago is with all the crime and the immigration.
Is a war zone. None of that is true. They're just making this up. And then what do? They fire tear gas and smoke grenades, and they make it look like it's a war zone. And they, get people on the ground are frankly incited to want to do something about it appropriately. I mean, if you are on the ground and you're having tear gas pellets fired at you, as they have been doing in Broadview, Illinois, you know, you want to react. You want something to happen, and unfortunately, they're using every lever at their disposal to keep us from maintaining order.
Before you go, sir, we're on day 5 of the federal government shutdown, with Democrats refusing to support the Republicans' short-term spending package without some concessions. Do you think Democrats should keep the government shut down indefinitely?
Hey, shout out Misfit Supervisor. She says, hey, y'all, subset. Hey, what's going on, sis? Hey, shout out to the supporters and the recent supporters, which is Misfit Supervisor and Vlad. And guys, make sure to follow Misfit Supervisor and Vladstein on YouTube. You know, Vladstein's about to start streaming, and I believe Misfit Supervisor, well, we all know she's already streaming. So shout out.
Even if the president follows through on his threat to permanently lay off federal workers, thousands of them, and he continues to withhold even more federal funding for blue states like Illinois.
Republicans control the federal government. They control the White House. They control the Congress. They can do whatever they want. They're choosing to shut down the government. They're choosing not to discuss things with Democrats. Remember, Donald Trump is the guy who supposedly wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, and says he's the greatest deal maker ever. And yet he's unwilling to sit down and make a deal with Democrats. He only needs 8 Democrats. He can't seem to muster that, but he's unwilling to even discuss anything. And instead, he wants to shut down the government. It's wrong. What he ought to.
Hilarious, but shut down the government, but it's wrong. I mean, how, like I said, you guys are the demanding party. And I'm always going to go back to when Trump shut down the government because of the wall. The CR bill was cool. The Democrats wanted to pass it, but Trump wanted to add the wall on there, expensing for the wall. They said no. Trump said, okay, then cool. I'll shut down the government over this. Now the shoe's on the other foot. The Dems are the demanding party. The Republicans are the ones okay with the CR bill. And the Dems are like, no, we want to shut down the government if you don't give us $1.5 trillion in Medicaid spending. So I'd always say I'm just being consistent in my argument of that when I was mad at Trump for shutting down the government over the wall, well, I could be mad at the Dems for, well, pretty much shutting down the government over $1.5 trillion in Medicaid. And here's the worst thing about it. I mean, it's a red herring. I mean, to be quite honest with you, especially when you talk about healthcare premiums. And then they want to talk about negotiating when they're pretty much asking for the healthcare cuts or the Medicaid cuts to be reversed.
To do is make sure that.
Hold on. Shout out to my man Jet. He says Pillsbury thinks a war zone is his plate after lunch. I'm done. Hey, no, that was actually a good one. Shut up. That was good.
The healthcare that people need is guaranteed to them, that those subsidies that people depend upon for healthcare are put back. And he's unwilling to do that. He's been trying to take away healthcare from Americans since before he became president. He's effectuating it now. And what he ought to do is just sit down, make a deal, put those back.
I mean, he didn't take it away his first term. I mean, he added some little tweaks to it. Like he took off the individual mandate off Obamacare, and that helped people out. But he didn't just take away the Affordable Health Care Act. Like, let's be real. Like, you ain't gotta lie now.
Subsidies back, help people get health care, and reopen the government.
The spending bill, the government spending bill, is just a 7-week spending bill. The Democrats could allow the government to reopen and then see what happens in those 7 weeks if Republicans are actually willing to deal with them on those Obamacare subsidies. You don't think it's worth it, though?
Look, this discussion happened back in April. It's happening now. It's going to happen again. The reality is that Democrats need to stand up, speak out, and the president needs to make a deal. And he's supposedly an expert at that. Let's see.
J.B. Pritzker, Democratic governor of Illinois, thank you for joining us, sir. Appreciate it.
I mean, man, it's crazy how they allowed this man to avoid the whole Chicago war zone when it is the war zone. Even the people in Chicago, especially Southside Chicago, are saying, yeah, this is a war zone. But okay, yeah, just ignore those guys. F what they talking about. All right, let's get to federal judge blocks National Guard deployment into Portland. All right, let's get into it. Whoop. Wait, what the heck happened there? Sorry, guys. I guess something happened to the screen on that one. Let me see here. Let me see if I can go ahead and fix it on the quick side. Whoops-a-daisy. There we go. And right there, back in action.
From sending the new this morning, a federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from sending the National Guard into Portland. The White House is planning to appeal. Now, in her opinion, The judge described recent clashes between protesters and federal officers as inexcusable. Oregon's Attorney General agrees.
Mobilizing the United States military in our cities is not normal. It should not be normal. And we will.
And the crime in your cities and the protests against ICE and the violence that looks to be displayed against ICE is unacceptable as well. So when you fix your problem, I mean, the National Guard will be fixed, my friend. This is probably the worst time to pause it on this guy because he looks ridiculous now.
Fight to make sure that it is never normal. Today's ruling is a healthy check on the president's power. And as the president, you must have an actual facts based on reality, not social media or just your gut feeling if you want to mobilize the military here in the United States.
Hey, all I got to say.
Stop whining. Your kids are soft.
For more on the judge's ruling and what's next for Portland, here's CNN's Julia Vargas Jones. Julia.
Victor, what this decision is doing is basically pressing pause on the deployment of the National Guard to Oregon. The question that the judge, Karen Immergut, a Trump appointee, I should add, had to answer was this an overreach by the federal government to federalize the National Guard? In the complaint, both the state of Oregon and the city of Portland had called this deployment unlawful and unwarranted, but there were three basic pillars that her decision was based on. One of them is Section 12406 of the U.S. Code. It says basically that the president exceeded his authority here and that he did not prove that he was, quote, unable with regular forces to execute the laws.
Actually, yes, he did prove it. When Portland said that they would not allow their police to help ICE, you're pretty much saying that, yeah, ICE, you're on your own. We know you're undermanned. And usually, you guys work with law enforcement, but not this time. We're going to make sure that we don't help you guys. I mean, LA did the same thing. They said the sheriff and LA police said they're not going to help ICE. So what happened? The National Guard came. It's the same thing. If you guys don't want to help ICE, then the National Guard will replace you guys. What's so hard to understand about that?
There. A second one is the concept of rebellion. The standard for rebellion here was not met. She said that the protests were recently small and mostly peaceful.
I mean, when you stand outside and you're getting in the way of ICE doing their jobs, when you stand outside and you get in the way of these guys, like pretty much driving out because they can't just run over you guys. You know that, right? So yes, you are impeding on them and they know this, but they're not going to cover that part.
There were some sporadic incidents, but it wasn't an organized and armed rebellion as the federal government was using to justify this deployment. And thirdly, the conflict with the 10th Amendment. She said that this federalization of the National Guard would be invading the state's sovereignty. And then she talked even further about how unwarranted this was, citing the positions from local law enforcement in Portland, saying that in recent weeks, there were about 20 people, give or take, at these protests. There was minimal activity, and the regular forces in Portland itself would have been able to handle this very well. Now, what's notable here is when the judge got into talking about the history of the United States and military power. She said, quote, "This country has a long-standing and foundational tradition of resistance to government overreach, especially in the form of military intrusion into civil affairs." She says the U.S. is a...
Yeah, but when you let these when you let these cities get overran by gangs and violence, then guess what? People are going to want to be ruled by, let's be real, the United States. They rather the National Guard take over the city than gang members. They rather the National Guard take over the city than gang members. I do not know what's so hard for you guys to understand. If you guys stop letting your crime get out of control, we don't have to do the whole National Guard. But when you guys let crime get out of control, when you let the drug trade and the arms trade run all through your city, this is what has to happen. I don't know why you guys are crying about it, because you refuse to fix the problem for years. And you let it get this bad to now the National Guard is needed. Like, don't blame Trump. Blame Democratic leadership or the mayors of these cities, of these high crime cities that happen to be Democrats.
of constitutional law, not martial law, and that, quote, defendants, so this is the federal government, have made a range of arguments that, if accepted, risk blurring the line between civil and military federal power to the detriment of this nation. Now, Victor, this decision is only good for 14 days, and the court will contact all parties on October 17th to see if there is a need for an extension. Victor?
All right, Julia, thank you.
And all right, now let's go ahead and go over to the next one real quick with, let's see, what you are doing is murdering people. Former army captain slams Trump over the Venezuelan, boat bombings, or just striking those boats without giving out enough information to determine if they were, narco terrorist or not. And remember, they are designated as a terrorist group. And here's the thing, people are over here getting mad about, well, apparently terrorists getting bombed. I mean, where was that whole same outrage with Yemen and other countries? Like, we bomb terrorists all the time, but all of a sudden now it's, these cartel members that are bringing drugs over. Now everybody's trying to have a heart all of a sudden. Or I would say, trying to bring up what? Military law, it's illegal. This is just murdering people. I mean, what the hell you think we were doing in Yemen?